out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 459th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the amazing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. Not virtual, in the flesh, real. Every day I get the news on energy and climate change and I put it up at my blog, geoharvey.com. You can go there and find these. We're starting on the 17th of February. We're starting on the 10th of February. I didn't put the dates on these things.
No, you didn't.
Man, how dumb. Anyway, starting on the 10th of February, and you can go to the website geoharvey.com and find them there by clicking on the date. But also, if you go that way, I think it's that way, down the screen, you'll find the source material. And I'm sorry, I forgot to put the dates in it. It just says February. But this is all about energy and climate change. So,
well, some of these things, all of them are worth looking at.
Yeah.
But some of them are particularly worth looking at.
Yeah.
And I'll try and mention that as we go through.
Yes, indeed.
Because obviously I've read all of these.
Tom reads. He actually does read these things. Should we just start up, Tom?
Huh?
Should we just start up? I've got the picture up for this thing.
I thought we started up already.
We did, but I'm saying, should we just start into the stories?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I've got a picture here of the Taurus Hall, where the jet tokamak machine is.
We talked about that last week.
And if you want to get an idea of the scale, if you look at the bottom of the screen right in the middle, you can see a set of stairs going up.
Some idea of scale. That thing's pretty big, isn't it?
That thing is gigantic. Okay. And this came from CNN. What do you have for title for the article, Tom?
Giant donut-shaped machine just proves a near limitless clean power source is possible. That's significant.
It's significant, but before we start really celebrating, let's do this. Scientists in the UK announced that they were able to generate a record 59 megajoules.
Well, that's equal to burning a 100-watt bulb for a week.
16.4 kilowatt hours of sustained fusion energy in the course of 5 seconds. And the article says that the fuel, which is made of equal parts of deuterium and tritium, can be extracted from seawater. But guess what? There ain't no tritium that you can extract from seawater. It'll be
It's there, but you can't get it out.
In the smallest traces you can imagine. It has to be made in nuclear reactors.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they know how to get it.
They have spent billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars over a period of 70 years. And they have always said it's 30 years ahead.
Yeah,
now they're saying...
It's almost a joke. It's 30 years ahead.
Yeah.
You wait 30 years, it's still 30 years ahead.
Yeah, and now it's 10 years ahead. And they've spent all that money and they've done all that work and they managed to get enough electricity to keep a light bulb going for a week. And it was generated in 5 seconds because they can't figure out how to, well, they probably have figured out, but they aren't yet able to keep the thing longer than 5 seconds.
Well, nuclear power today is created by fission, okay,
Yes.
which relies on splitting atoms.
Yes.
Nuclear fusion is kind of the opposite of that. It's the fusing of two or more atoms into a larger one.
You know how you do that?
With a lot of...
A very big hammer.
That'll work. You got a hammer big enough. This process unleashes a tremendous amount of energy. Okay? Yep. Recently, a tokamak in England, and that's a picture of a tokamak right there.
Yep.
We showed one last week, too.
Yep. Only when you get off of that, you should show us instead of, or yourself. That'll work.
Recently, a tokamak in England produced a record amount of sustained energy from fusion, which is not a whole heck of a lot.
No.
Proving that nuclear fusion is possible and no longer a pipe dream. So this is a very significant development, really.
Yes.
Now let's see if I can figure out how to get this thing to
I know
scroll.
people who
Oh, here we go.
will generate as much power as this thing did by having their solar panels out in the sun for 2 days.
Well, it's not the amount of power that this thing is generating. It's the very fact that it is generating the power.
Yeah.
And, you know, they can work from here.
Yeah.
You know, a long, long time ago, I lived in Princeton, New Jersey.
Yes.
And one of my neighbors worked in a different place in Princeton, New Jersey, where they were working on nuclear fusion.
Yeah.
This is a long, long time ago. This is like more than 40 years. And I remember talking to him and saying, you know, what we really need is something like the Manhattan Project, where we throw a lot of money at this thing and speed this process up. And his answer surprised me. He says, it wouldn't work, wouldn't help. There are steps here that have to be taken one at a time, and there's no way you can accelerate that process.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's see, do I have any more about that? Nope, we just talked about it.
We have a
so we
picture.
got another picture of a cafe, don't we?
Roy's Motel Cafe gasoline.
Look at the prices of the gasoline.
Well, you know what? I don't know when that picture was taken, but it looks kind of old to me.
But look at the prices.
I know.
They're half of that now.
No, they're actually getting to...
They're moving up.
They're going over... It's gone over $5 at some stations in California for a gallon. But I wonder if these prices weren't per liter for some reason. Anyway.
It's possible.
This is from CNN. What do you have for title for the article?
Oil could, quote, easily hit $120 if Russia-Ukraine crisis escalates, J.P. Morgan warns.
Yeah.
Now, I've been hearing about this all over the radio.
Yeah.
The stuff going on there, we haven't the slightest idea what's going on.
Let me read this, then we can talk. Oil prices could soar to over $120 a barrel or more if Russia's crude exports are derailed by tensions with the Ukraine, from the projections from J.P. Morgan says. The forecast underscores how a potential invasion of the Ukraine could cause a wide-ranging ripple effects throughout the world. Now, it's not just the Ukraine. There's a bunch of places where an invasion could do that. But
yes, it's pretty delicate, really.
It's pretty delicate.
Well, Russia is the world's #2 producer
Yes.
of both oil and natural gas.
Yes.
After the U.S.
Yes.
U.S. is #1. And as we were talking about, Russia and Ukraine tensions have helped inflate oil prices in recent weeks.
Yes.
And I've noticed that. I just filled up my tank and it was over $3 a gallon.
Well,
The Russian oil exports if Russian exports are cut in half, Brent oil prices, which is the benchmark, would likely race to $150 a barrel. The all-time high was $147.50.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the possibility of some real surprises at the pump.
I think this whole thing at the Ukraine, Vladimir Putin says that it's happening because he wants to make sure that the Ukraine does not become part of NATO. And my own feeling is that that's not the reason at all. I think it's because Russia is getting 60% of its export trade by selling oil and gas.
Okay, so it's about money.
The Europeans are trying to eliminate the use of oil and gas, the big product that Russia has got. And Vladimir Putin knows that if that happens,
he's out of luck.
He's really out of luck. And so what he's trying to do is to blackmail them into being slow about the transition.
I think we're going to touch base on that a little bit later.
Well, I think we probably will.
Well, we got a nice picture coming up here.
Beautiful little house. There it is. Whoops,
yeah, let's
what
see
happened?
If I can.
Was beautiful.
That is Cape Hatteras.
Yes.
And it's a wrecked home, as the article says.
Yes.
Home collapsed into the ocean as rising seas eat away at the North Carolina coast.
Another beachfront home in North Carolina collapsed into the ocean, officials with the National Park Service said, as tides get higher and rising sea levels eat away at the coast. Recent windy weather has produced waves that are higher than normal. So every once in a while, one of these houses in North Carolina gets destroyed. But in this case, it was just because the waves were higher. It was not a hurricane. It was not a...
No, it's
deal.
it's a difference in what's happening on a daily basis, really.
Yeah.
20 years ago, there was over 300 foot of beach and dunes between the homes and the high tide. Today, there's 48 feet.
Wow.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has noted that by 2030, there will be 7 to 15 days of high tide flooding nationally. By 2050, the frequency increases to 25 to 75 days. Interesting.
Yes, it is. Now let me.
Let's move right along.
Let's move
We've got
right
another
along.
picture coming up here.
Okay, we do, and it's a
as soon as you
picture
push it
of
up,
a desert.
I'll bring it up.
There it is. It's already up, Tom.
I just put it up.
Oh, you did. Oh, how smart of you.
Well, the picture is, according to this title, the desert.
The Tar Desert.
Huh? The Tar Desert. That's
Tar
right.
Desert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wherever that is. Rajasthan.
Yeah, it's Rajasthan.
Which is one of the states of India.
Yes.
Rajasthan signs pacts for over 90 gigawatts. Gigawatts is bigawatts, folks.
That's 90 of them.
Of renewable energy projects.
And, you know, I figure that's the equivalent of maybe, what do you think, 20 nuclear reactors? This is big.
This is huge.
This is huge.
All told, it's 62 gigawatts, and that's an enormous amount.
Yeah, this is from PV Magazine India. And the synopsis is state-owned power producers THDC India, NTPC, NHPC, SJVN.
They're all
LMNOP.
They are the local power producers,
Yes.
local generating stations.
Committed to building 10 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity each.
Yeah.
Among the private firms, this is in addition to this, Reliance plans 20 gigawatts, Access Energy Group plans 28, and there is an additional a plan to build a 4 gigawatt solar PV factory.
Well, as I mentioned, that all totals up to 62 gigawatts, and that's an enormous amount.
It is. It's a lot.
Well, Rajasthan is one of India's best states. It's a state, just like Vermont is a state.
Yes.
Okay, in terms of solar energy potential, it has signed with major companies to build over 90 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity. Companies investing included state-owned, which is what we've described, and private sector power producers. So they're getting on the ball. They know what's going on.
Yep.
Well, shall we move on? We got a very appealing picture coming up here.
Yes, this little guy is very worried because his photograph is being taken.
Well, he should be worried. that little guy is so appealing, though.
Isn't he? Yeah.
He's even got a smile on his face.
He sure does. Yeah.
Unfortunately, he has now been listed as an endangered species.
Well, not in all of Australia. It's in just 2 states. And I'm not even sure about this. Maybe you have more insight than I do. But the impression that I have is that it's...
Australia lists koala as endangered species.
Yes, but I think
But it's not all of Australia.
No, I think it's just parts of 2 states. Not even all of the 2 states. Australia listed the koala as an endangered species across most of the East Coast after a dramatic decline in numbers with rapidly diminishing habitats and climate change. The federal government said the listing was for Queensland, New South Wales, and the Australian Capital Territory.
Sort of like Washington, D.C.
It's like D.C.
The once thriving marsupial has been ravaged by land clearing, bushfires, drought, disease, and other threats.
Yes.
Okay, New South Wales found koalas would be extinct there by 2050 unless there was urgent action.
Well,
I mean, this is a big deal. That koala is, if anything, symbolic of Australia.
yes, that's true.
Kangaroos and koalas,
Yeah. Kangaroos and koalas. Yeah. and rabbits.
Well, we brought the rabbits in.
I know. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we got an interesting picture here coming up. I'll leave it up.
Okay. This is from the BBC. No, I'm sorry, it's not from the BBC. It's from Euro News.
Euro News.
Yep.
Wooden batteries. Wooden batteries? Wouldn't you believe it? Wooden batteries are hitting the market. Is this the future of clean energy?
Okay, I'm going to read this and then I'm going to make a little bit of a comment. Finnish designers Stora Enso have built a production facility costing 10 million euros that will create renewable bio-based carbon by turning trees into batteries. You know, a tree is a very big thing to get a battery out of. I wonder if that isn't wasteful. This will be done.
It's a magic wand.
Yeah, this will be done with lignin, which is commonly derived from wood, but is abundant in all vascular plants. Now, there's a couple of comments. This is not wooden batteries. Sorry, I won't accept that.
No, it's not.
This is batteries that are partly made of wood.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
lignin is the thing they used to call black liquor.
Oh, yeah?
Which, when they made paper...
This was left over.
This was left over, and they would dump it into the river, and the fish would die. And it's an extremely interesting compound because first of all, it's plastic, and you can make plastic out of lignin, which is biodegradable. But the second thing is that
and graphite is not.
Yes, that's right. But the second thing is you can do things like this with it, where you're making it into essentially a replacement for graphite.
Well, that's what they say. The carbon contained within the lignin can be used to replace the non-renewable graphite found in batteries.
Yeah, which is mined.
Graphite occurs naturally in certain rocks.
Yeah, if you buy a pencil, you're buying something that came from a mine.
That came from a mine, right. So this is an improvement because lignin comes in wood.
Yes.
Comes in almost, well, it's the woody material in plants.
Yes.
Let's move along. Saturday, February 12th.
This is Saturday, February 12th. We have a picture of the Amazon rainforest, which is, according to BBC, being destroyed.
Amazon deforestation. Record destruction of trees in January.
The number of trees cut down in January in the Brazilian Amazon far exceeded deforestation for January of last year, according to government satellite data. The area destroyed was 5 times larger than 2021 and the highest January total since records began in 2015.
Well, Amazon deforestation in 2021 totaled more than 7 times the size of Manhattan. It's a significant amount right there.
It's a significant amount.
And protecting the Amazon is essential if we are to tackle climate change.
I absolutely agree.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So
now,
more on that, or should we go on?
No, let's move along here. We got an interesting picture.
Of a seagull sitting on
the bird sitting on the roof there. And those are rooftop solar systems.
Yes.
Which they're inevitable. I mean, the time is going to come in the near future where if you have potential for solar, you're going to use it.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And by the way,
yes,
one of the things that I came across about a week ago was a statement about the amount of space that has to be given to solar power to power the entire United States. And the amount of space that was calculated, and this is based on material that came recently from the U.S. Department of Energy, that amount of space was about 70% of the amount of space that is currently devoted to, and this is land space devoted, so if you have several stories of it, you only count the land. But it's about 70% of the amount of space devoted to parking in cities.
That's an interesting comparison.
Okay, so you roof over the cities with solar panels and you're going to have enough for the whole United States? Whoa. And people complain about solar power being too consumptive of land, even though they don't look into the fact that it can be built over agriculture. It
does use up a lot of real estate, but there's ways around that, like we're going to talk a little later about.
Yes, indeed. Okay, this is from Clean Technica.
The glut of solar panels in 2025.
Rethink Energy, that's the name of a company, predicts that there will be a surge of polysilicon production capacity coming online within the next 2 years, leading to a glut of solar panels by 2025. The solar panel production capacity is expected to exceed 1,000 gigawatts per year. That's 1,000
gigawatts.
Gigawatts.
That's a lot, guys.
That's a lot,
gigawatts
guys.
Is bigawatts.
That's right, but this is 1,000 of them.
They call that a terawatt.
That's a terawatt. By 2030, the initial wave of manufacturing facilities is to come online in 2025.
Well, polysilicon is a high purity form of silicon.
That's right.
It's a key raw material in the photovoltaic supply chain.
Yes.
And polysilicon is melted at high temperature to form ingots, which are then sliced into wafers and processed into solar cells.
Yeah.
It's really kind of simple. Well, the production capacity of solar panels is expected to exceed a terawatt per year by 2030, and that's coming up pretty quick.
It is, yes.
A glut of solar, and this is interesting, a glut of solar panels arriving at the same time as a ramped up supply of batteries and electric vehicles will create a massive acceleration of uptake.
Yes. Okay.
Let us move along. Let's look at some more
This is
silicon
one of the
panels.
more fascinating pictures that we've seen.
Well, we talked about, well, where is it? There it is. Come on, you. We talked about using up real estate, and here's a case where the real estate is there, it's not being used, they're putting these things up.
Yeah.
Okay, and the side benefit is less evaporation.
Yes.
Win-win situation.
This is from Clean Technica.
Mother of all agrivoltaics projects will link solar canopies, which you're looking at, and irrigation canals.
One example of how farming combines solar PVs is the Turlock Irrigation District in California, which just announced a new agrivoltaics project. Agrivoltaics combines agriculture with solar panels that could give the state multiple gigawatts of solar power by outfitting irrigation canals with solar panels.
Well, agrivoltaics makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. This field's been focusing on the benefit of raising solar panels up off the ground a few extra feet, providing farmers with a twofer.
Yes.
Okay, they get new revenue by leasing their land for power generation, and they can still farm under the panels.
Yes.
Well, you can't grow corn there.
Well, in
potatoes,
in this particular
strawberries,
case,
blueberries.
this is over
It's over canals.
canals, which is, a perfect solution.
Absolutely. Well, it's a win-win situation because they're cutting down on the evaporation.
Yep. Should we go on?
Well, California's 4,000 miles of public water infrastructure could support a capacity of 13 gigawatts in solar energy while saving 60 billion gallons of water annually. It's just numbers, but they're important numbers.
Yes, indeed. Okay, our next piece comes from Sunday, February 13th.
There. Yep.
We have a picture of New Mexico. Now, I got to tell you, that is not the whole state. That's just a part of it.
I think that's, I think I know that place.
Really?
Monument Valley, I think.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, yeah, look at that. There's buttes off on the left.
Yep.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that. This
Well,
is from...
this is, I'll say this twice. Temporary spent nuclear fuel storage isn't temporary.
What?
I'll say it again. Temporary spent nuclear fuel storage isn't temporary. This is a big problem.
Do you know what a tautology is?
I should, but I don't.
It's like saying red is red.
Yeah.
Well, this is saying temporary is not temporary. So it's a counter tautology.
Counter tautology.
This is from the Santa Fe New Mexican. The proposal to, quote, store, end quote, spent nuclear fuel in New Mexico is, this is the guy's opinion, a Trojan horse that will defeat the goal of geologically isolating this highly radioactive and chemically toxic material. The proposed interim storage facility is geologically unsuitable, even for a period of decades. And I got to tell you, from reading this article, it's unsuitable at all.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been talking about this ever since they figured out they got to do something about the waste. But nobody wants it.
This particular spot is in an area where there's
nothing there.
Well, there's nothing there, they hope. But the area it sits on an area where oil has been pumped out for years and years and years. And the result of this is that they've got sinkholes suddenly showing up.
That's interesting.
And you don't want to see, it says that in the article. Doesn't say it quite so dramatically, though.
Well, Congress, let's see if I can't pull it, urgently needs to give the federal government a statutory directive to find a permanent repository for the safe geologic isolation of spent nuclear fuel. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, good luck, guys. And you've got to
Nobody wants it.
You've got to store it.
It's our own storage right here in Brattleboro.
Yeah.
It's sitting there in Guilford.
Yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
as we speak.
Yeah.
And it's going to be there for a long time because they don't know where to put it.
They don't know where to put it.
And they don't know, when they find out where to put it, they don't know how to get it there.
Well, I was reading about somebody designing a rail car that could be used to ship spent fuel.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
We'll see a little bit on that a little bit later in the show.
Oh, man. This is really sad. This whole idea is it's too cheap to meter, this stuff is going to be.
It's what?
Too cheap to meter.
Too cheap to meter, yeah.
Yeah. And the unfortunate thing is I think we may actually get to that point with solar and wind.
It's almost there now.
Yeah?
It's almost there now.
Almost there now. Could you repeat that?
It's almost there now.
Okay.
You want me to say it again?
Yes, please.
I'm tired of saying that. I'm going to pass.
Okay.
I got another one coming up.
Yeah?
Monstrous waves will crash ashore more frequently due to climate change.
Yeah.
Huh?
We
They
have a
wouldn't do
picture
that.
of a monstrous wave there.
Well, let's see what a monstrous wave looks like. That's a monstrous wave.
Yeah, but I don't know how tall it is. I guess that it's pretty tall,
It
probably.
looks pretty tall to
My
me.
guess is that there are surfers who would appreciate that. This is from a publication called Study Finds. Man. The risk of coastal floods could rise 50-fold because of man-made climate change.
50-fold.
50-fold.
Wow.
The recent research shows with weather phenomena of overtopping huge waves will hit structures or beaches with increasing frequency, say scientists.
Well, overtopping is water rise over the top of a barrier that was specifically constructed to hold it back.
Yes.
Think Fukushima.
Well, the fact is, I remember seeing this on television in the 1950s. There was a thing about Holland being hit by a big storm in the North Sea.
Yeah.
And the dikes failed.
Yeah.
And it's like all of that submarine, I don't know how
most of Holland is below sea level.
A lot of it is below sea level, and all of that area, or most of those areas, are below sea
Totally
level.
flooded.
Because flooding one of them does not mean that the next one over is flooded.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were flooded, and they had to pump all that water out. And so it took them months to do that. There were trees and crops and so forth that were killed because they were submerged in salt water. And
Well, this is interesting because low-lying coastal regions host nearly 10% of the world's population.
yeah.
And look at the U.S. It's right at the East Coast.
How much how much ocean level rise does there have to be to wipe out Miami? And the answer to that is not a whole lot.
Not very much, no. Miami has days where
It's already flooding.
it's flooding back. The canals that are built to take the water away are bringing water back in.
Yeah.
They never counted on that.
Yeah. And so they're spending $500 million putting valves on them. So they've got these big check valves on them and raising the roads. And what this is saying is that's not going to work.
The first floor apartments can't be used, stuff like that. They never counted on that.
No, they
never
did
counted
not.
on that.
No, they did not.
Well, let's move along here. We got a very interesting looking car.
Yeah, this reminds me of the ad that they used to have saying it's not your father's Oldsmobile.
Well, let's see what it looks like.
Okay.
Bingo.
That is a Lincoln.
Well, it's a concept car with the Lincoln brand on it.
Yeah, it's a Lincoln concept.
I'm looking at that thing, and it looks like all those stripes in the front, they're LED headlights.
Oh, yeah. Only are they in the front?
That's the front of the car.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I'll
the
take
front
your
of the
word for it. I'm not very smart when it comes to cars.
Lincoln Concept EV. That's a concept car.
Okay.
For what it's worth. Ford plans to add 4 new electric Lincoln SUVs by 2026. What do they know that we don't know, huh?
4? I think it says 5.
Did I say 4?
Yes.
It does say 5.
Okay.
I'm reading right in, and I'm looking at the number of 5 when I said 4.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. When you get older than 13, things like that happen to you. Okay, sources, when you're younger than 13, you think that it is 4. Sources told Reuters that Lincoln, the luxury car division of Ford Motor Company, plans to introduce at least 5 new battery electric SUVs through 2026. Ford says it will build 600,000 EVs globally within 2 years. This is an annual production, but the mission, but part of its mission is to be, quote, the clear number 2 EV maker in North America.
They're being
quote.
realistic. They're taking Tesla into account.
Well, they are. This is from Clean Technica, by the way. But to hear a car company say, we really want to be number 2.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Isn't it interesting?
Well, Ford plans to invest $30 billion in electric vehicles and batteries between now and 2030.
Oh, man.
That's a significant investment.
Yeah, it is.
And the article says the future of Lincoln is all electric. Well, I think the future of the automobile is all electric.
Yeah, I think it is.
The new models will supplement or replace current Lincoln models. And Ford is building 2 new battery factories to supply these electric vehicles.
Yep. Okay, our next article.
I just wanted to mention, that if you
ahead.
got the time, there's a 3-minute video there and a series of concept cars created by students that we were looking
Yes,
at. One
it's
of
a
them
very interesting video, isn't it?
at the Art Center College of Design.
Yeah, it explains a bit of this, and it's like,
It's a 3-minute video. It's called Quiet Flight 2040.
yeah, and it's somebody at Ford, I don't remember who it was, but it was a higher up at Ford, said, wait a minute, these kids are looking for something to design. Let's give them something to design.
Bingo.
You know, it reminds me, when I was first year in college, I was at Pratt Institute studying art, which is an interesting thing for me because I've been so oriented toward numbers and mathematics and engineering, but I did study art for a year. And there was an architecture school there. And a young man in the architecture school, well, the whole class was given the job of designing a school.
Now, Pratt Institute's a very small school, isn't it?
Huh?
A very small school.
Well, I think it depends upon how you look at it.
I mean, the number of students.
Yeah, it's not a huge university.
I don't think so, but it's very exclusive, really.
Hard to get into.
Yeah.
It was the 3rd hardest school in the United States to get into when I went there.
I can believe it.
The number 1 was Harvard Business, and the number 2 was Webb Institute.
Never heard of Webb Institute.
It's naval architecture. They accept 20 students on average. They graduate 19 of them. It's a 5-year thing. It was just mind-boggling.
Yeah, I bet.
Anyway.
Well, let's move along here. We got an interesting
I'm
picture.
Not done with my story. They were to design a school for a town in Brazil. So each student had these models, had a model of his concept of this thing in Brazil. So one of the teachers said to one of the students, we're going to send your model to Brazil.
Okay.
Box it up.
No kidding.
So he produced a pine hexagonal box, you know, like a coffin.
Yeah.
And put it in. And then took it to the place where it was being shipped on the subway. And they had the whole thing covered over with a cloth. This is the way students think. And in the bottom of this was a pair of boots. They got stopped by a cop. Anyway, who was not amused, by the way.
I guess.
Although they were very amused. Okay, we have a picture that shows something that I have thought, how do they do that? And this shows you.
Well, that's a turbine blade.
That's a turbine blade, and it's really, really long. It might be 100 yards long, and it's being towed by a tractor. And how do you get that moved on a windy, windy, windy road? Well,
I didn't think you did.
You lift the one end of the blade up so it'll go over the trees or shrubs or whatever there is.
Interesting picture.
It is indeed. Okay, this is from Clean Technica, and you have a title for the article.
I do. Well, the title of that picture is Moving a Blade on a Winding Road.
Yeah.
West Virginia to see thousands of new jobs from Build Better Back.
Okay.
Build Back Better
Yeah.
Act.
The National Resources Defense Council did a series of articles, and I think this was the only one that we're going to be using, but they did a series of articles showing what the effect of the Build Back Better Act would be on states, state by state. And one of them was Maine, but I thought that the article...
This was about West Virginia, but it's applicable to many states.
Yeah. The Senate's passage of the policies of the Build Back Better Act, which the House has passed, would enable West Virginia to invest in climate solutions that would lead to over 70,000 direct jobs. Just imagine.
So this has not been passed yet.
No,
It's been
70,000 jobs in West Virginia. You suppose those people could use those jobs?
Well, they're closing coal mines.
Yeah.
So there's people in West Virginia that have been used to making very good money.
The number of coal miners in the United States is only about 5% of what it was 100 years ago.
That doesn't surprise me.
And that is, a lot of that is hit West Virginia over the years. And this is analysis by National Resources Defense Council, NRDC, shows that. Okay, you have anything on that?
Well, let's pass. Let's go further on.
We have a picture of clean energy, which in this case means wind turbines in the distance.
Well, there's wind turbines all over the place back there.
Yeah, there is.
Look in the far distance, there's even more of them.
Yes.
They're all over the place.
They're all over the place. And that's the way a lot of the West is. The people who've driven out there tell me that you just come across.
Well,
some of these wind farms are bigger than a county.
Some of them are very big,
and so, a couple of years ago, I was saying, well, what happened to the people in the county? Did they all have to move out? And I started doing some research and discovered they all stayed.
Well, the thing about wind farms is they don't take up a lot of space. You can grow stuff underneath the wind farms and not even know they're there.
The farmer is typically given a lease that gives him thousands of dollars every year for 300 square feet of land.
So he's getting double income.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, renewables reached new highs in the national electricity market as fossil fuels slump to historic lows.
All right, this is from Australia. New figures published by Australia's Climate Council show that renewable energy generation in the national electricity market grew almost 20% in 2021. Renewable sources generated 31.4% of the electricity last year, while natural gas generators supplied 5.7%.
So renewables are about 5.5 times as much now as gas.
And the renewables are growing and the gas is not, despite the fact that the federal government is trying to push it.
Well, as the article says, gas generation declined to its lowest level in more than 15 years.
Yeah.
And besides gas generation declining, so did coal.
Yes.
So the renewables are making sense just from the economics alone.
Oh, there was a good one, which we're going to talk about next week. The largest coal-burning power plant in Australia, which has a capacity of 2.8 gigawatts.
That's a lot.
Yeah, is closing 7 years early.
Because they're not making money.
They're not making money. Yeah. Okay, should we go on?
Money talks. Yeah, might as well.
Okay, we got a young lady
look
here.
At this lady there. Now, all the new cars seem to be coming out with that dashboard thing.
Well, when I had a Prius, I had a 2001 Prius, which was the first year they appeared in the United States. I bought it new. It was the only car I ever bought new. It had a little TV thing on the dashboard that was about this big, and you could toggle between a couple of different modes, one of which told you how fast you were using fuel.
Well, these new things tell you an awful lot. They even tell you what your temperature is.
Well, they tell you how far it is to the nearest charging station, and they'll even tell you whether there's a place open at the charging station for you to charge at.
That's interesting.
They might even give you the menu of the diner there. I don't know. But
U.S. electric car sales surge as overall car sales slip. Is this a game-changing trend?
I think it is. It's a game-changing trend.
I think it is too.
Okay. Last quarter, the overall U.S. auto sales fell, but EV sales surged. Now, this has been happening over and over again in Europe.
Yes, it has. They're ahead of us on this, but it's happening here too.
Kelley Blue Book reports that total car sales fell by 21.3%.
But?
In Q4 of 2021 compared to Q4 of 2020, while EV sales grew by 72%.
So total car sales is going down.
Right.
But EV sales is going up.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Well, yeah, exactly. What does it tell you?
Is this the beginning of the end of the oil age?
I think it is. Kelley Blue Book is not alone in predicting that EV sales will just keep growing.
Well, Tesla, Elon Musk believes that in the future, autonomous vehicles will be in service most of the time.
Yes.
He's predicting you're not going to have your car, you're not going to own your car, you're going to lease it.
Yeah.
Short term.
Yeah.
You're going to call up, say, I want a car this afternoon. It's going to be there in front of your house. New model.
Well, there's a lot that suggests.
One of the things it suggests is that people's cars are parked most of the time.
Yeah. But it also suggests that it's going to be cheaper for you because you're not going to have to pay for it. I mean, that car is costing...
It's a new concept, but it's...
Yeah, that car that you own is costing you money whether you drive it or not.
Whether you drive it or not, right.
Okay. We are up to Tuesday, February 15th, unless you want to delay me.
No, we got a picture here. I'm going to throw the picture up if I can. Yeah.
Let's
look at the picture first.
That's an ash spill when an ash retention pond failed.
And they fail a lot because
fairly
these things,
frequently.
They're no by the way. You know, the company's digging for valuable stuff, and they got this ash left over.
Well, a lot of the ash comes from coal.
Comes from burning.
Burning coal.
Yeah, what do they do with the ashes?
Why is a cinder block called a cinder block? Because it's made from cinders.
Made from cinders.
And where do the cinders come from? They come from plants that burn coal.
Interesting.
And here, you know, they don't have enough. They don't make enough cinder blocks to use all the ash that they've got.
No, they're dumping it into places like this.
So they have. Well,
I've seen stuff like this because they fail a lot.
Yeah.
They don't put a lot of money into building these things. They
No.
just dump the stuff.
They have a thing that looks like a pond, except that it's not full of water. It's full of
gunk.
ash, gunk. In some cases, I used to work in chemical factories. These ponds, if a bird landed on what looked like water, it never took off again.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Your feet got stuck. Huh?
No, it would die of asphyxiation pretty quickly because of the amount of ammonia.
Oh, wow.
It was really bad. It was very sad. And the guy who ran that plant would fire somebody if he went hunting.
No kidding.
The birds were dying in the pond, but if somebody went hunting, he would fire him.
That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. I agree.
Well, the DOE will build the nation's first large-scale facility to turn fossil fuel waste into rare materials. Basically, this is a good idea.
Yeah. The DOE plans to build the nation's first large facility to extract critical minerals like nickel and cobalt from waste like coal ash.
So instead of mining them, they're
Yeah.
extracting them from used fuel.
The metals could then be used in components for renewable energy batteries, cell phones, EVs, and other technologies. And one of the minerals I remember years ago, in fact, we had it on the show years ago. There was a company that made flow batteries. They were vanadium flow batteries, and they had developed a way to get the vanadium out of coal ash.
Okay.
So it was exactly this. Well, this means the DOE is not going to stop at cobalt and nickel. And you could bet your bottom dollar that they're looking for vanadium too.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that vanadium that comes out of there is going to produce a lower cost source of vanadium for flow batteries.
Then digging it from the earth.
Absolutely.
Well, there are many components other than just carbons.
Yeah.
Okay, and the U.S. is currently importing more than 80% of its rare earth elements from offshore.
Yeah.
Okay, the DOE is looking for ways to extract them from coal ash waste, which they know it's there.
Yes.
So the department aims to have the facility to be able to process about 1,000 metric tons of mixed rare earth oxides. So they're recovering these things, increasing to. They're going to start with 1,000 metric tons, increasing that tenfold, and ultimately 20-fold by the year 2040.
Yeah.
This is fast growth.
Yeah.
With this technology, this is a good takeaway. We can clean up the environment as well as gain resources.
Isn't that lovely?
Win-win situation.
Yes, it is. I used to work with rare earth elements.
Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, it was. I used to work with gadolinium. And most, I would tell that to chemists, and they'd say, I've never seen that. And I'd say, well, I've handled literally tons of it. But we used to buy and this was many, many, many years ago, we used to buy the rare earth oxides, or you could buy the rare earth oxides for about $7 a pound. Gadolinium oxide cost about $35 a pound. Now, that $7 a pound of rare earth elements had gadolinium and dysprosium,
all sorts of good things.
just lots and lots of stuff in there. And I forget how many of them. There's 13 or 16 or whatever it is. And if you can separate them all, every single one of them is worth a whole lot more than you paid for the whole thing together. Anyway, okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we got a funny looking picture here.
Oh man, this isn't funny, and I don't want to keep it up very long. This guy is a sniper, and I believe that he's a Russian sniper. I don't know that for a fact.
Well, it says Russian sniper.
It says, but that's because I put it up because
okay.
Dominic Sostman had it on his thing at Unsplash, but I was not able to identify this guy for sure as a Russian sniper. I don't like snipers. I'm glad I'm not one. But this guy is, he's using a rifle I don't recognize.
This is an interesting article.
Yeah. Let's put us
Putin
up.
could turn off Europe's gas tap. This is the solution.
Yeah. Put us up, will you? I'm tired of looking at this guy.
Tired of looking at that guy, huh?
He wanted to murder somebody. I don't like people who murder people.
I can't get us up without that being in the background, so.
That's okay. Let's see.
You can put another picture.
I can put that up. Is that better?
Yeah, that's a nice picture.
Better.
I like that picture.
Okay, as Russian soldiers look ready to invade the Ukraine, Europe is threatened by another crisis. Russia supplies 38% of Europe's natural gas and is using European dependency on gas as a weapon. One way for Europe to get out of the bind is to bring renewables online quickly.
Duh.
I got news for you. If you think you're worried about Russia and Russia playing games with fossil fuels, using fossil fuels as a weapon, you can use the fact that you don't need to buy those fossil fuels as a weapon. And Vladimir Putin has complained about how fast the Europeans intend to get off fossil fuels.
That's got him worried.
It's got him worried. He is not acting like a strong man here. He's acting like a bully.
Yep,
and one thing that I have noticed about bullies is that they're always frightened people.
You're right. In 2013, Russian imports accounted for a quarter of the European Union's gas use.
Yeah.
Now it's nearly 40%. We're just talking 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
So if Europe can't do without Russia or for gas, the question must be asked, why not do without the gas at all?
Yeah. Which means the Russians are in exactly the same state here. This is like
absolutely.
two people. It's like two people having a tug of war. I got news for you. If either one of them lets go, the other one goes toppling, and so does he.
Well, ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Russia's Gazprom are all recording record profits.
Yeah, well.
They're doing pretty well. There's little being done to challenge their power and influence. And the majority of the EU's member states still give more subsidies to fossil fuels than to renewables.
We're not going to survive by doing this.
Well, the solution should be self-evident.
Yeah.
End our reliance on gas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, let's look at this picture a little bit.
Okay.
Nice picture.
It's a beautiful picture. This is from USA Today. Unfortunately, the picture may be beautiful, but it's not about a beautiful subject.
No, it's not. Let's move along here. This is mega drought.
Yeah.
The western U.S. dry spell is the worst in 1,200 years.
The intense dry spell that's parched the western United States in the past 22 years is the region's worst mega drought is in quotes, since at least the year 800. I wish they would say at latest the year 800. Nevertheless, a study published in the journal Nature Climate Change says over 40% of it can be blamed on human-caused climate change. Now, I've read a higher figure in other places. One of the figures that I read, I think, was 72%. And one of the things...
Depends on where you're looking.
Yeah, and one of the things they said today is that scientists are looking for a different word to call this, because mega drought really doesn't sufficiently describe...
Sufficient. Yeah. They're worse than mega droughts. Huh?
This is worse than a mega drought.
Well, right now, mega droughts are defined as intense droughts that last for decades or longer.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
That's what's happening, except
Researchers
this one,
calculate the intensity of droughts by analyzing tree rings.
in this case, there aren't going to be tree rings because the trees are not going to survive.
Climate change is baking the water supply and forests of the U.S. Southwest.
Yeah.
So we've talked about that on the show.
Yep.
95% of the western U.S. is experiencing drought conditions.
Yes.
The West is pretty dry.
And the part that isn't experiencing drought conditions right now is mostly,
it's right on the edge.
it's like on the door, it's on the what is it, on the peninsula west of Puget Sound. What's the peninsula called? I've forgotten. I was going to say the Door Peninsula, but that's Wisconsin.
Well,
Okay.
two of the largest reservoirs in North America, which are Lake Mead and Lake Powell, they're both huge.
Yeah.
And both of them are on the Colorado River. They've reached their lowest recorded levels
Since they started filling up.
since they started filling up.
Okay. Our next item is from CNN, and I'm not going to put the picture up just yet. I'm going to read the stuff first, and then we'll look at the picture.
Okay, we'll put up the picture of the saguaro, if I can.
Yes, you can do that.
Well, I'm pushing the wrong.
There you go. So this is from CNN. What do you have for a title for the
Well,
article?
that is the last house on Holland Island.
Well, let's
We
not
haven't
tell
even looked
people
at
what
one.
it is, Tom.
U.S. sea levels will rise rapidly in the next 30 years.
Yep, a report.
That's not good news.
No, a report led by NOAA gives an alarming forecast for the United States. Sea level will rise as much in the next 30 years as it did in the previous 100 years. According to the report, there is an increasing confidence in science showing that the coasts of the United States will see another 10 to 12 inches in the sea rise by 2050. And the picture...
I don't think we can afford that.
No, I don't think so. The picture is a picture of a house on an Holland Island, which was in the Chesapeake Bay, and there it is.
It's
The
Chesapeake Bay where it is, huh?
Yeah, the last house on Holland Island. There it is. That was put there.
Well, it was kind of decrepit. A lot
It
of
looks-
birds on the roof, huh?
Yeah. Well, the people moved out of it quite a long time ago,
Kind
and
of looks like.
that
But
was
there's birds
at
all
one
over
time.
the place. There's
Yeah.
a lot of birds.
That house was on an island, and there were other houses on the island, and they're all gone but this one. And guess what? There's a reason why there's a little machine there off on the right side. It's because they're tearing the house down.
Aha. Well, for what it's worth, 40% of the U.S. population lives within 60 miles of our coastlines.
40% is within 60 miles.
In Australia, it's even worse.
Yeah, I know.
Sea level rise will increase the frequency of high tide flooding, pushing storm surge to the extreme and inundating vulnerable coastal infrastructure with salt water.
We're going to see cities.
Going on. Well, we're seeing it already.
We're going to see cities evacuated because when people start leaving from those places that are along the coast, they're going to want to find places to be. And the infrastructure in those cities is not going to support the lower population because that lower population is going to have to pay higher bills. So they'll move out faster.
Well, sea level rise has already made tropical cyclones and hurricanes more deadly and more destructive.
Yeah.
Beyond 2050, the amount of sea level rise is highly dependent on how much the world cuts fossil fuel emissions
Yeah.
and limits global temperature rise. If temperatures continue to skyrocket, this rise in high tide flooding could reach 7 feet.
7 feet.
7 feet. 7 feet higher than it is now.
Man.
So if you got some oceanfront property, my advice is to sell it now while you can.
Yeah. Tell that to Donald Trump. I don't think he'd listen to you.
Well, we got a nice picture coming up here.
Yeah, that's a nice picture. That says lichens
are lichens,
on
yep.
a rock. I don't think that actually is a rock. I think it's several
Several
rocks.
rocks.
But this is from CNN.
Earth is heating up too quickly for these tiny organisms to adapt.
As
Now,
global,
that's bad news.
yeah, it is. As global temperatures steadily rise, our planet may be changing too quickly for some of nature's most wide-ranging organisms to adapt. The algae within the lichen can take hundreds of thousands or possibly millions of years to adapt to their preferred climates, according to the study.
Well,
Now-
little information here. A lichen is a composite organism
Yes.
consisting of algae living with fungi in a mutual relationship.
Yeah, they're helping
Okay.
each other.
Lichens, which cover 7% of the Earth's surface, have properties different from those of their component organisms.
Yeah.
The combination is different from either of the parents.
Yeah. And
The algae supply food in the form of sugars, while the fungus serves as a habitat, creating a symbiotic relationship.
yeah, they both benefit.
Lichens
that
have
nice?
appear to have evolved in the most extreme, well, lichens have evolved to appear in the most extreme environments, including around volcanoes.
Yeah, but one thing about this is the fungus part of this organism can have many different species of algae as that it is the host of.
Okay.
And so I don't think that the situation is quite as bad as this article makes it sound.
Well, it's the algae that they're talking about
It
in
is.
the article.
But I'm saying that there may be a species of algae that is
Well, that's what they're hoping.
is going to have trouble, but there are many other species of algae. And by the way,
Lichens create oxygen,
yes,
prevent erosion, provide nesting material, retain moisture, contribute to water cycling in the ecosystems.
and you know
They
what?
also serve as a food source.
For reindeer, among other
Reindeer,
things.
among
Yeah,
other things.
That's right.
Lichen have been able to survive previous shifts in Earth's global temperatures, but climate change is causing these to occur much more quickly.
Much too
And that's
fast.
what they're worried about.
Yep. Okay, our last article is, well, by golly, Portland Head Lighthouse.
I'll be darned.
I'll be darned. And this is from Clean Technica.
Well, the article's about Maine, but it's applicable for many
Many
states.
places, that's right.
Maine to get 3,600 new jobs from the Build Back Better Act.
This is like that earlier article about West Virginia. It's basically the same.
It's a parallel.
Clean
absolutely.
Technica took all these things from the USDOE and posted them at Clean Technica. And I posted them at my website as they did so. So I was having like 2 or 3 of these every day. And
Saying basically the same thing.
saying the same thing, but about different states. Different states have different circumstances. If the U.S. Senate passes the Build Back Better Act, it would bring a result of 3,600 to 5,100 new direct jobs being created in Maine.
So haven't been passed yet. It's passed the House, hasn't passed the Senate.
Yep, this is according to the Natural Resources Defense Council, the NRDC. Clean energy investment, economic activity, and job growth are some of the benefits.
Well, it offers tax incentives to boost the renewable energy industry, okay, particularly in low-income communities. And it supports a just transition for communities that have relied on fossil fuel revenue and jobs in the past, which is like coal mines in West Virginia.
You know, Tom, I have not seen any information about what this would do in Vermont. But I can tell you...
Well, there's not a heck of a lot of this kind of activity in Vermont.
Yes, I can tell you that if it had no direct result, but it was successful, it would, at the very least, in Vermont, save a couple hundred lives every year.
That's interesting.
Because you would have fewer people dying early because of air pollution.
Well, what the act is intended to do is direct jobs to manufacture, build, and service low-carbon resources.
Right.
New carbon-free energy generating capacity would happen.
Yeah,
it's going to more than double.
We would benefit from this because it would help pay for larger solar arrays and possibly wind turbines. But we're going to have to convince people that we need these things.
Well, from the article, clean energy is the biggest job creator in the energy sector. It's employing almost 3 times as many workers as the fossil fuel industry.
If we're going to do this properly, it will be the biggest job creator in the world.
That's nice.
But we've got 2 choices in Vermont. One of them is install the wind turbines and install the solar arrays.
That's going to happen anyhow.
The other choice is let them be installed in some other state so that we don't have to look at them, and then install the transmission lines that we're going to have to use to get them here.
Then we'll have to look at them.
Then we'll have to look at them. And instead of a couple of birds being killed by wind turbines, we'd have lots of birds being killed by transmission lines because they're much more destructive to birds. I mean, let's think about this.
You know, what you're saying is absolutely true.
Yeah. I had a point where I was wondering.
We do have a subtle underground that opposes wind turbines.
A subtle underground.
I think you've debated one of the subtle ones.
Yeah. You know, this thing reminds me, people talk about birds being killed by wind turbines. How do you know how many birds are killed by wind turbines? Do you
count
know?
them.
You count them. But I wanted to have a description of this in a peer-reviewed paper so that I could refer to it.
Okay.
And I spent literally hours trying to find that paper online. And I finally found one, peer-reviewed paper, and it described how birds were counted during a period of time that was the inventory time was short, so it was because it was done during a migration period, and so they could get a better idea of what it was in a shorter amount of time. And they had problems, and the problems included: you find a dead bird, how do you know how it died? Well, you may be able to if you can do an autopsy, but you're not going to do an autopsy if it just got eaten by a fox. And they'd have to say, look, there's a bird. It's being carried away by a sparrow is being carried away by a duck, or whatever it is. I mean, not a duck, a seagull. But they did their inventory. They counted over 1,700 dead birds that they could actually identify what they were and how they died.
Well,
they estimated that the number of birds that they couldn't count, but they could estimate, was double that. So a little over 5,000 birds had died at this one site in 48 hours.
Wow.
Okay. And what were they killed by? They were killed by collisions with 7 generators. 1 nuclear, 6 coal.
No kidding.
No wind turbines in
At
sight.
all. Okay. Well, you know, we don't talk about how many birds are killed by buildings in New York City.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
All these high-rise buildings. I mean,
yeah.
The janitors have to go out every morning and sweep up the birds.
That's right. And there was some research that I saw that was done where they were able to do research. Oh, they know that the weight of migratory birds is declining as climate change goes on because they've been able to do the weight results from the inventories of the thousands of dead birds that were picked up.
So fewer dead birds.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, another thing that's happening is the birds get to hear these turbines and they avoid them.
And the turbines are if you paint them properly, the birds
will avoid them.
Anyway, it's time to go.
I think we
will
well
hope to have you come back next time.